Hello and welcome to another episode. If you are new to this channel, my name is Jamie and welcome. If you are not new to this channel and you are following the process of this engine build that I have here, which is going to eventually go in my Carman gear, you will be aware that we're almost there and we only have a few more things that are left to be done. And today we're going to concentrate on rebuilding the carburetor. Now, this is a Solex carb and it is a 31 Pict 4. Over the years, Volkswagen used many different variants of Solex carburetors and they have similarities. So we're going to crack this open, and I have already previously blasted this with walnut shells and cleaned up the outside. I bought from Peruzzi, the company that I've mentioned before. This is the A quality carburetor set for this model, and it is item number 2106 if you are wishing to order the same. So like I have previously mentioned, I don't like to buy the lesser quality products, because you'll learn the hard way that they don't fit properly and they are inferior, and for a little bit more money it is definitely worth buying the better quality stuff. You'll thank me later. All right, anyway, let's get stuck in. So first of all, I'm just going to take everything apart, put everything in order, clean everything, and then we can start rebuilding it. Let's open the packet first and see what's inside. Careful not to lose anything. Right, so you have a new accelerator pump diaphragm. It's very similar. If you watched the previous video I did on the fuel pump rebuild, it's very similar, or it's the same, that modern fuels are very aggressive on the old material they used to use. So it's a really good idea, if you're unaware of the history of your carburetor or your pump, it's a very good idea to rebuild it for safety reasons. So we have that accelerator pump diaphragm. We also have this diaphragm that fits in here, and it's attached to the coil, the choke coil. Then we have this diaphragm that I have no idea what it's for. Okay, so this is definitely the accelerator pump. I would think that this diaphragm is for a different model, and maybe this covers, either I've ordered the wrong one or this covers different carburetors. Anyway, there is a few washers and some grommets, tiny little grommets, and then you have this valve that fits in the top cover here that I can't get out, but we'll deal with that later. And then we just have like the general gaskets for this. So let's pull this thing apart. Okay, there's no real order to do this in. It's all got to come apart, but I think I'm going to start with the top half and remove that and see how much gunk is in the float bowl. It's always good to take pictures along the way when you're doing jobs like this, so when you come to reassemble it, you know exactly how it came apart. So I think that top half should come off. You can see all the walnut shells falling out of it. There we go. So let's put the top half to one side and remove the gasket gently, just in case I've ordered the wrong kit and I need to, as an emergency, reuse the old one. So let's check. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, look at that. If you buy the A quality, it lines up nicely. I've bought previously and learnt by my mistakes buying the lesser quality kits, and the gaskets don't even line up, nowhere near. So that's good news. Right, so inside the float bowl, here's your float. And we can remove this little clip. And then we can pull out the float. And there's a little pin there. And it's full of walnut shells. Surprise, surprise. Okay, it's actually not too bad at all. It's pretty clean inside there. Okay, let's keep pulling it apart. So next off, I think I'll remove the accelerator pump. It's actually quite difficult to get this screw out. I'm wondering if this may have bent. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if we remove this cover, we have the spring. Note which way up the spring goes. Put that aside, and then we have the old diaphragm. So you can see here, it doesn't look like it's split, but it feels very brittle. So likely to fail. And let's check with the new one that it's the same. Luckily, yes. Good, we're on the right track. So I'm going to dismantle as much as possible, and then I'm going to go and blast it with the walnut shells. But this is puzzling me a little bit because you can't get this screw out. So I'm wondering if this is bent. Oh. Okay. One thing that is good to check is the shaft on the butterfly, because these are prone to wear, and then fuel can leak out of the sides. But this one has a little bit of play, but it should have some. It actually feels very good, and it moves freely, which is great. So next I'm going to remove is solenoid, and I believe that is a 17 millimeter. So let's just crack that open, like so, wind that out. We can test that later as well, make sure it still works before it goes in. This is actually 12 volt, I've just read on there, and I was running 6 volt on the Karma gear. I'd like to convert it, but that's a good thing to note, that this is actually for a 12 volt. Let's put that aside. Next, I'm going to take these plugs out. This one's a 13. Let's go this way. Like that. This has an aluminium washer on it. That looks like it's just for draining the float bowl if you desire. And then this big one here is a 19 millimeter, which is rather large. So what's this for? Again with a copper washer. Okay, so I definitely have never built one of these before, and I have no idea what that is for, but somebody has previously opened it, because I can see it's slightly damaged where they've unscrewed it, and then there's looks like this locks whatever that is in place. Okay, so next up I'm going to remove these jets. So it's good to note which one goes where, and there are numbers on the end which are quite hard to see. So what I'm going to do is get my phone and take a picture. I think this one says 9.6 and this one I can't read. So at least when I look back at the picture I'll know which one goes where. Okay, so let's remove the jets. This carb has definitely been taken apart and put back together a few times. Okay, and then we'll remove this top jet here. Be careful, there might be a little ball bearing underneath this. There was one on my Cadrons. No, this is actually a pipe. Let's see. No, just walnut shells. Okay. Next up, I think I'm going to try and remove this thing, whatever it is. So if I undo this, which I am thinking maybe locks it in position. The little aluminium washer, and then I have to get a nasty big screwdriver, flat bladed screwdriver, to get that out. I think this is the biggest I have, but maybe it's not too tight. There we go. I can hear a spring. Okay, I'm just going to spray a little bit of crusty rear down there because it doesn't feel too nice. I think I'll wind it back in a little bit. And then wind it back out. I would imagine there's a special tool for this and not a big screwdriver, but if I'm gentle, I think we'll be okay. I still just don't know what it is. Okay, I just found a screwdriver bit from an in-pack screwdriver that fits in there perfectly. So I'm going to remove this thing, which I don't know what it is. It seems to be coming out quite easy with this, but I can hear that there's a spring in there. After lots of fiddling about, I managed to get this out. Basically, there's like a little valve that goes in there, and this has a spring on the end. I'm not actually sure what it does, but it regulates something. But this thread binded on the case and was really hard to get out, but I've managed to get it out, and then I've cleaned the thread up a little bit with one of these thread cleaner tools, and I've made sure it goes in and out nice and freely now. I'm not entirely sure what this does, but it must regulate the fuel somehow because it has a spring on the end, there's a ball in there, and it has this little plunger. So it is connected to, yeah, it actually comes off. There's a little hole in there, so I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I'm sure someone in the comments will be able to fill me in. There's a little hole there where the accelerator pump is as well that looks like it connects somehow. But anyway, this is a rebuild video, not a how this carb works video. So the other thing I had to fix also was this shaft here that this rotates on had bent over, so it looked as though this carb had been dropped at some stage and the butterfly wasn't that smooth. So this is a couple of M4 bolts that have been crudely welded together, but good enough for this application. And I don't know if you can see, but it screws into this little brass piece in there. And I put a couple of washers on top there, and then I have this slide hammer that's used for pulling dents out of bodywork, and then you should just be able to gently and throw it on the floor like that. So that's basically what I just pulled out of there, this little brass retaining thing, and I think underneath that there should be a ball bearing, so be careful when you do this. There it is. So let's put that to one side. And that's as far as I'm going to go with this one. So let's put that to one side and then we can continue with the top half. Okay, so I'm only going to remove this. This has a diaphragm behind it. This is your choke. It has a coil in there that changes with heat. So if we just unscrew these. Okay, so under the cap there's a spring, and then we have this diaphragm. Oh, that's right, you do need to undo this to be able to get that out because it's linked. So let's undo this. Note that there are marks on this. You can see there's a line there, and then there's like a line on the body as well. And this is for adjusting when the choke opens and closes. You can spin this. So it's good to note before you take this apart, if it was working okay, where that sits. And there you have your coil inside there. And with that released, I think, yeah, you can see that's what's stopping it coming out, you see? Like that, and pull that out. So we're going to replace that as well. This is actually pretty clean, so I don't think I'm going to clean the inside of this with the walnut shells. I think I'm just going to give it some brake cleaner and get some of the walnut shells off. And so the last thing to remove is this, which is a valve that closes the fuel inlet off when the float rises. So the float, this in the bowl, rises, and then it just turns off, closes the inlet to stop it overfilling. 14mm socket, crack that open. Like so. This has a copper washer on there. So that's ready as well. We just need to clean this up and make sure nothing is blocked. One problem if you are cleaning stuff like this with the walnut shells is that if it has old fuel inside any of the galleries, it can be quite sticky, and the walnut shell dust will stick to that and you'll end up actually blocking it. So it's a good idea to clean all the passages with like brake cleaner or petrol to dissolve the old fuel and then blow through with an airline. Just bear that in mind. And that is through experience. I once did completely overhaul a carb, and then it ran for about 10 seconds and then stopped. And it was actually blocked with the walnut shells, and I had thoroughly, well, I thought I had thoroughly cleaned it, but you can see like here, as soon as it sticks to anything, it can block. Okay, so with everything cleaned out, really nice, looks like new look. I've blown all the passageways with compressed air and made sure nothing's blocked. It all looks good. And we're ready to start putting it back together, which is just the same but in reverse of taking it apart, I guess. So I think I'm going to start with the top half, and it's this triangle shaped diaphragm. So if I remember, this goes in here, past this lever. Which way can I? Like that. So as far as it will go, and then that goes in there to stop it coming back out. So I guess I can put this cap back on with the spring. Now in the rebuild kit there isn't a new spring, so we will reuse the spring that came out, and you will note that there's a little pipe there, so it goes in, can only go in one way. Simple stuff. So okay, so next up is this little plastic piece. So it has a little slot there, and it has a notch that fits inside that. So it can only go in one position, which is like that. When the choke moves, that lever moves. So next up, we'll put the choke back in. So you can see on the end of this coil, there's a little U-shaped piece that slots into that lever. So if you put it like that, I think, yeah, you can feel the tension as soon as you start spinning it. You see, it springs the choke back. So this works off heat, and you have to set the position for it. It was set about there. But we can play with that once it's on the car. And then it's just held into place by this. Okay, that's strange. To me, that looks like it shouldn't be bent like that. I don't know if you can see that. Like, why would it be bent like that? And when it's in the fully closed position, it doesn't line up. So I'm going to bend that back gently. Well, it was very easy to bend. Okay, let's try again. I think that's right. So now it lines up with the marks on the case, and it does still spring back. Okay, let's put this back on then. Okay, so here's the deal here. These threads are actually damaged from somebody over tightening them or cross threading them. So I just cleaned the threads out with a tap, and I'm not sure what good that has done, but I went and got some longer bolts because these actually don't go in only like half the way. I'm not sure if these are the original length ones, but I went and got some long ones, but they're actually too long. So here's a tip that some people may not know, but these wire strippers have these this option on them to cut threads. So you basically screw, this is an M4, so you screw that in to your desired length, which is about there. You squeeze and it chops it off, and there you have a shortened bolt. So as you can see with these longer threads, they actually go flush with the whole length of the thread. So I think this will work, hopefully. Perfect. There we go. So that's the top half done, isn't it? Oh no, we need to put this stop valve in. Okay, let's put that aside. So in the kit, there is actually a new one. So we might as well take advantage of that. I can get it out. There we go. So there it is, and if I remember rightly, it had a copper washer on, so that should be supplied in the kit. There we go. New copper washer. Everything's clean. Put that in there. 14mm. Snug that up nicely. Done. Let's move on to the main part of the body then, shall we? Where should we start? I think I want to start by putting that ball bearing in before I lose it. It's good practice to take it out because then I could blow everything through and clean everything. So pop that in the hole. So we'll get our crudely welded extension. Screw that in there. And then this only needs to snug in there, so we'll just give it a little tap. You can feel when it's home, so that's that done. Next, I'm going to put these jets up. So if you remember, I actually took a photograph on my phone because there were two of them. And I believe that they're both different. And what I'm going to do before I put them, yeah, you can see clearly that they're two different sizes, so you don't want to get them mixed up. And I can see that the end of this one is actually blocked. I don't know what it's blocked with, probably old fuel, it crystallizes, or it could be even the walnut shells, so we need to clean them out first before we put them back in. So these jets have really tiny holes, and we actually have at work this set of cleaning rods. It's actually for oxyacetylene torch. So there is a tiny one there that we can use to poke out the crap that's blocking the hole. But if you don't have these, you can always use a wire brush and you can either pull out one of these bits of wire, or then you just use it like that. It works just as good, doesn't it? But because we have these, I'm just going to, yeah, that's proper blocked, you see. Really blocked. There we go. Do the same for the other one. That one wasn't so bad. And then once I've done that, I'll just blow with the compressed air. And I can feel that they come out nice and freely. Perfect. So now I need to check on my phone which one goes where. Okay, so looking at the picture I've taken, this one is the left one is the one where you can visibly see the writing, so it's that one goes in there, which means that one must go in there. So using an 8mm spanner, just nip them up. Not too tight. Done. Okay, what's next then? I think I want to get this thing back in that I don't know what it is. Please leave a comment and let me know what this is. But let's change the O-ring and see if I can get this seated all the way in. And don't forget the other two pieces, and I'll clean these out. There's a little hole in there, so we'll make sure it's all clean. Remove the O-ring, and I'm guessing that this one in the kit is for this. It looks the same. There we go. And then we just need to put the spring back on. I think this went this way, like so. Okay. With my big screwdriver, let's see if it will go all the way down. Okay, I did actually do some measurements yesterday that when it's fully seated, it should be in there about 17mm. That says 16 and a half. Let's just double check. I think it is there, but I don't want to over tighten it. Yeah, that's perfect. Cool. That's a relief. Right, let's get this other diaphragm in here for the accelerator pump. So there is a spring as well. I need to clean this up. Okay, next to go on is this diaphragm for the accelerator pump, and if you look at the one that was in here, it's really stiff and brittle, and you can actually see when I move it, it's cracked. So this is a good time to change this. This is quite simple. It has a slot in it that fits into this slot here, and then you have this spring that goes that way up. It has a little holding bits there, and then just screw it on. I'm not convinced that this is correct though, because I can't get this screw out, and I'm wondering, because this was bent, well, I think it's obvious, because this was bent, this isn't quite in the right position, so I'm not sure if we're going to have some running issues when we get this started. But for now, I'm just going to screw it together and at least I'm aware of that. It looks like it runs in the right track, but we'll see. So let's screw this on. Okay, done. That's on. Let's see how this rolls then. Yeah, I mean, it's right on the edge there. It should run in the middle, so I think I might have to bend that outwards a little bit. With a little bit of fine adjustment, that seems to work perfectly. Now this this bearing was not actually spinning when this moved, and I think it's worn a little bit of a groove in there. So now it's lined up, it seems to move really nice and freely, so that's good. Okay, so with a new O-ring on, we can screw this in. That goes in there, and we shall adjust it later. We can also put this plug in with a new aluminium washer. Goes in this one. I believe that was a 13mm. Snug that up. Next we can put this big one back in there, but it looks as though in the kit it doesn't come with a washer for that, so I'm going to reuse the old one. It should be fine. So this is 19mm. Snug. And then what goes in there? Ah, yes. So that has a copper washer, which is also not supplied in the kit. So we will reuse the old. Just thought I'd quickly test this solenoid, so I wired it up to a battery. So obviously the positive goes on the end there, and so that holds it in when there's current, and then when the current drops it pops back out. So we know that that works. Okay, so just nip this up with 17mm, and I think next we can put these two in. So this I'll just give a blow through with the airline, and I believe this went down there like so. Where did this go? Ah, in the bottom here. This little, it's just a little drain plug. Done. And now I guess we can put the float bowl back in. So it's this little brass shaft that goes in there. Normally in the kits it comes with a new retaining plastic piece, but not in this kit. So I believe that goes that way round. So then it has clearance when it lifts. Okay, so we're getting there. So on this needle there is a tiny little O-ring, and it comes in the kit. So try to get this off without stabbing my finger with the, like so. Not sure how I'm going to get this on here. Maybe go like this. Little bit of a fight to get it on, but it's on there. Okay, so this needle controls how much fuel is let into the carb. So that's an adjuster screw. So we'll just screw that all the way in for now, and then when we run the car. There is a rule for pre-setting these carbs before you run them. And I think, if I remember rightly, you screw them all the way in until they stop. And then you back them out 1.5 turns. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Oops, that just fell out. We'll pop that back in. Okay, we're really getting there now. So I think the only thing left to do is put this gasket on the top here. Make sure all the holes line up. which they do perfectly. And then we pop this back on the top. So making sure the choke is not open because it could get, oops, silly boy. Make sure the choke is closed so it doesn't get caught up when you put the top back on. Like so. And then just put these 5 screws back in. I always start with the middle ones a little bit, like when you're tightening the head down. That one doesn't feel too good. I'm going to replace that one. The thread looks a bit dodgy. And I noticed this screw was longer than all the other ones, but this one can actually go all the way through, so it's not going to damage anything. Like if I was to put it in this one, for instance, it would run out of thread and bottom out, and you would risk over tightening it and ripping out the thread, but that will be okay in there. It's probably the wrong one, but I'm just going to run a tap through there and then replace this screw because I can see that the thread is damaged. So you can see I just went and got a nut, and this thread is clearly damaged. It's a shame because these Volkswagen, or should I say Solex bolts, the spring washer doesn't actually come off. It's part of they're like pressed on there, I guess. And then if I replace it with a normal one, they're not the same, but it doesn't make any difference. It's just nice to keep everything the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a tap gently through this thread, and then I have a replacement bolt, same style with the cheese head, but I just need to do the same as I did with the other screws and cut them down using this. This actually has M3, M5, M4. So, I mean, luckily if I really did mess this up, I could put a really long bolt there and put a nut on the end, but I don't want to do that. I'm just saying. There we go. Do you know what? I'm just going to put a bolt that's a little too long in there. Oh, that's better. Just because if the top of this thread is a little bit damaged, then the longer bolt will use more of the thread, because these don't quite go to the end. Okay, let's nip these up. And the last one here. There we go. I noticed that the return spring was missing, so I just went and got one. It actually had like the curly things on there, a bit like what you have on your key ring. So I just chopped it off with some of these, so it has these hooks instead. I'm not sure if it's a little bit too strong, but it works. So I think we're done. So there we have it, fully rebuilt. It's been through the wars a little bit, I think. It's definitely been apart a few times and been dropped and whatever, but hopefully it will work. And all that's left now is to put it on the engine. I just put this gasket on there, and then there's a couple of nuts, and I've got this pretty cool wiggly spanner that you can get around the back of the carb with, because the back nut is actually quite hard to get to. Especially now I have put that bracket on there, it makes it a little bit harder. So all we do is we drop this on the engine like so, and just put these couple of nuts on. So you can see with this, let's take this cap off. So you can see with this spanner, easy. definitely worth purchasing one of these. Boom! Wop, 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 wop. Something like that. You see, the choke is in this position when the engine is cold, which closes off the air intake, and then when it warms up, the coil will react and then it will open up, and that brings your idle down as well, because boom, like that. Okay, that's it for another episode. Get yourself one of these. It is a 13mm on one side, 11 on the other side. Valuable tool. So we're almost there, right? Carb is on, fuel pump is done. There's a couple of other bits I need to get. Like I mentioned, I need to get this mount that goes on here so you can tighten up the fan belt, and I haven't decided what to do about the voltage situation, because as I found out, this is actually 12 volt. My coil is 6 volt. The electronic ignition can run either, but the flywheel I'm going to be putting on is for a 6 volt car. But there is available starter motors that fit with a 6 volt flywheel, but they actually take 12 volts. So I think that might be the option, and they're a high torque starter as well. Not that I need it so much for a standard engine like this. The next episode I'll do, I will fit the flywheel and I will shim it. So I'll do a video on how to set your end play, which is this movement. And apart from that, I think I need to put oil in it, and then it's ready to run. So it's been a long process, it's been a long road, but we're getting there. But again, people, thanks ever so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, it really supports my channel. And please leave a comment. I'm sure I'll get some comments about this, and welcome. Okay, until next time, thanks a lot, bye.